So, I was playing Mega Man 2 with my good friend Rene Descartes when he said, "Oh, I'm kidding. I'm not really friends with Descartes."
I think therefore I am.
Shut up, Descartes. Once upon a time, I said, Mega Man games include very strictly scripted boss patterns. They do not change their movement based on the player's own movements, and the player cannot coax them into compromising locations. Okay. I had to horribly contort the quote to make it work out of context, but you get the point. Anyway, when I said that about Mega Man bosses, I was wrong, but not very wrong. In the classic Mega Man series, bosses do two things. They either attack Mega Man, or they take action to preserve their attack pattern, and they rarely do the latter. Oftentimes, they're content to run about the room and fill the walls with bullet holes, oblivious to the little blue man who's just walked in. I'm over here! You can't hit me with a melee attack if I'm halfway across the screen. Cynics in the crowd should note that homing bullets don't show that a boss is aware of Mega Man's position. A boss can be totally oblivious to Mega Man and still shoot homing bullets, since only the bullets need to be aware of Mega Man's position. Anyway, for an example of how classic Mega Man bosses follow this formula, let's take a look at Metal Man. He does a grand total of two things. If he's far away from you, he jumps in place and throws circular blades like Norm Abram in a slasher flick that takes place on a trampoline. If you get too close, Metal Man jumps to the opposite end of the room. Then, he does his other thing and continues to throw blades. In this battle, you're forced to fight Metal Man in one way. You gotta fight him from a distance. If you get close to him, he's just gonna scurry away. So the progression of the fight is largely determined by the computer. If you try to change how you fight, Metal Man's just gonna change it back. It's not like you can coax Metal Man into a disadvantageous position, or put him on the defensive in some way. You gotta fight him by his rules and his rules alone. This is how most, if not all, classic Mega Man bosses work. They may have more attacks, but the formula never changes. They either attack, or make sure the player can't prevent them from attacking in the way they want to. The player can never get the upper hand on them. This changes in Mega Man X. Armored Armadillo is a great example of that. He'll attack X, and he'll preserve his attack pattern, but he'll do another thing too. He'll become weakened. Note that the third one is passive. He will become weakened. Or, in other words, you can weaken him. You hold a certain amount of power over his attacks. Let's see how this plays out. Armored Armadillo has two basic attacks: bouncing off the walls in an attempt to collide with you, and shooting at you. Normally, Armored Armadillo is only vulnerable when he's shooting at you, or just after his bounce attack has finished. Between his own shots, he'll block your shots. He'll also block during the bounce attack. This forces you to attack in a very strict pattern. Wait until he lands from his bouncing attack, then start shooting him. When he curls up again, dodge. However, this is where the third aspect of boss design comes in. If you hit Armored Armadillo with an electric shock, he'll lose his armor. This allows you to hit him at any point. He can no longer block shots. I'd like to note something else too. Not only can you weaken Armored Armadillo, you can also empower him. If Armored Armadillo blocks a charge shot, he'll turn it into an attack. In this sense, Armored Armadillo turns your own attack against you, something a classic Mega Man boss would never do. In this sense, Mega Man X bosses highlight the relative simplicity of classic Mega Man bosses. Though classic Mega Man bosses may have intricate attack patterns, they never really interact with you. You're just forced to work around them. In Mega Man X games, you can turn the tables. Or, like Armored Armadillo, who absorbs your charge shots, the bosses can turn things against you, too. This conception of classic Mega Man boss design is not absolutely true for the later Mega Man games. For instance, you can rob Drool Man of his shield. However, even Mega Man 9 and 10 still largely rely on the classic Mega Man school of boss design. Classic Mega Man bosses attack the player in the same way no matter what, while Mega Man X bosses will change based on what the player has done. One last thing before I go. I'd like to see someone make the case that Mega Man bosses fit their levels. I don't mean like how Flame Mammoth is in a heat-themed stage. What I mean is, why is Flame Mammoth at the end of a stage where the predominant enemy throws projectiles at you in an upward arc? Those scumbags. I'll show them who gets the last laugh.